What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy, Chef, and we are back. You already know what time it is. This is time for the YAK Pod, episode number 58. And we are live with Matthew Broder. Say what's up to the people, Matt.
What's up, Chef? What's up,
What is
people?
going on?
I'm so pumped to be doing with you. I'm pumped to be doing this with you, Chef. We got 8 days until the draft, almost 7. It's like tomorrow in Melbourne right now. So you got 7 days, right? In the future. So I'm pumped, man. We've gotten to know each other a lot in our chat. And I'm so excited to just chop it up with you. Literally chop it up.
Exactly. We're in the kitchen, as always. So before we go ahead and get started, let me know how you got started with the whole beat writer situation.
Yeah. So I had left a job, a career in sales. I was selling IT, software and hardware, and I just really wanted to get back into sports. I wanted to be a part of a team again. I used to play baseball, and I've loved all Detroit sports, but I wanted to get back into it. And I had started collecting sports cards, or really ramping it up like during COVID, during these last couple of years. And I had been playing softball with Sam Day, who started Woodward Sports. And I just reached out to him. This must have been October, November of 2022. I was like, hey, man, can I just I really like writing. Can I write about sports cards or just start writing for you? And he's like, yeah, just send over something you like. And if we like it, maybe we'll get it published on the site. And it just kind of took off from there. It wasn't an immediate thing, but I kept writing a few articles, a few pieces for Stick and for Woodward Sports, and that just turned into a bigger role at the network. And as soon as the previous beat writer and beat reporter for Woodward Sports covering the Lions had left the company, I want to say early 2023, I decided to just reach out to our owner, be like, hey, I'm interested in this. Can you consider me? And that's where it all began. So I do like writing. It was something I hadn't been doing a lot of since college, and I like writing about sports. So it's just finished year 1. I got a lot to improve on, but I learned a lot. I just love being involved in sports, being able to talk Detroit sports or any sport for a living. Come on.
Yeah, that sounds good. Why do they call him Stick? Is it because he's tall and skinny, or because he plays softball?
You know, he's told me this story before, and I'm forgetting the exact story. My gut instinct is to say, yes, he's tall and skinny, so maybe that's where it came from, and it might be. I don't want to tell the wrong story, though, so I don't know for sure. I'll ask him after, and maybe next time I'm on, I'll give you the story.
All right, cool. Give a shout out to Danny G. He is in the chat. Chat legend Danny G. What up,
Danny?
All right.
Danny?
So we got a lot to get to today. We are going to be talking about the DBs and the DEs, specifically the edge rushers. Now, let's just get this out of the way. I am on the trade up for Dallas Turner train. But
dude, you're coming right out with it. You want to trade up for Dallas Turner.
That's where I want to go with it. I don't want to trade up for anybody. I can't lie. I will trade up for someone else. There's really only 2 people that I will trade up for. And neither one of them are cornerbacks.
I bet they're edge rushers or on the defensive end.
On the defensive end. I'm just going on the defensive end.
Feel it throughout the show. Okay.
I'm not trying to trade up for offense. Just defense. So I think I'm committing some sort of cardinal sin because as a former cornerback myself, I don't want to trade up for any cornerbacks. I'm sorry. It's just you'll see as we get to all of the clippings and things that I've put together, all the graphics. If you look at all of the flaws that are being pointed out in these cornerbacks, you won't want anybody. That's
right.
the problem. That's the problem. You'll see. But
I'm excited.
I think this draft is a big coaching draft. I think a lot of the prospects, even the top prospects, they need a lot of coaching up. There aren't any. I can't say there aren't any can't miss prospects, but if you look at Dallas Turner, who is considered to be like the top edge, no one is saying he's the most complete edge. If you look at Jared Verse, who's not considered to be the top edge, people are saying he's the most complete edge out of the three. So it's really it's really going to be a situation where whoever goes to a situation, it's going to have to be great coaching, which we have, with Terrell Williams being that defensive line coach. We want to see what he can do. But then we also have to look at, I think we're kind of comfortable with the guys that we have. I'm not huge on Marcus Davenport just because of his injury concerns. But I mean, if he can return to form, then he's a beast. I mean, he's what, 6'6", 260 or something like that. I mean, it's a ridiculous human being. He's a ridiculous human being.
But it's interesting you bring that up though, Chef, because I'm with you too. My gut's telling me, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I believe most people are concerned with his injury history. I think way more concerned than Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, and Brad Holmes. Like, I have this striking suspicion they may be relying on him or thinking he's going to be healthy, or at least planning for him to be healthy to take advantage of his upside. They think he's going to be that starter, that 3-down back. I know a lot of people like myself probably want some more insurance in this draft because you never know with him and James Houston. But it's going to be interesting to see really how Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes approach this, because great point there.
Yeah. So I mean, if he can return to that 2021 form when he had, 9 sacks in 11 games, that would be awesome. But I'm not betting on it. I'm not counting on it. You know, the same. I have to look at the same situation like I did with Jonah Jackson. I didn't want to bring Jonah back because the way that his injuries are trending, it's not like they're getting better. He's missing more and more games. And what you see with Davenport, it's pretty much the same situation. I mean, last year was his worst output of games as far as the number of games. But then there's the angle where you can say, like he said, he's pretty much been rebuilt in the offseason because of all the surgeries that he had to undergo and all these things. So, I mean, if we're getting the $6 million man, hey, that's fine. You know, if he's got the bionic stuff going on, I'm cool with it.
Right.
And then we have to look at James Houston. I've never been low on James Houston. You know, and I know there's some haters out there who don't like James Houston, and I've had some people assassinate his character and all these things that have nothing to do with football. It's like, you know, we know he had that situation in Florida, and he moved past that. You know, he paid his dues to society and all these things. But I mean, you got to look at a guy that had 19 sacks in one season. I don't care if it was the swag. I don't care. It was 19 sacks. It's not like he was in football. He was in college playing against high school kids. He was playing against other university players. And then we see he comes in 7 games and he gets 8 sacks. And then when we're breaking down his moves, like his hesitation move, I say that dude is out there playing basketball. He's like AI. You know, we don't really see stuff like that.
It looks different.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say he's like a. Yeah, it's bizarre. Like, I'm not going to say he projects to be a superstar defensive end or edge rusher, but when you see him out there, it looks like the way he bends, and that word bend gets used a lot, but like he looks different than everybody. It's a wild concept. You just got to stay on the field. But I love that you did bring up. I may not be familiar with any trouble he got in Florida, but the adversity that he's been through, going from playing for the University of Florida, then for Jackson State, and getting cut by the Lions, getting re-signed, and just staying through that to then have 8 sacks. All of that sort of put together in this pot of stew you're cooking up. James Houston is that piece you can't rely on to be your every down back yet. We just haven't seen it. But, man, there's some upside there too.
Yeah, he's got a lot of upside. if you take some sort of amalgamation of James Houston and Marcus Davenport together, like that's just like, let's just call him James Davenport. Okay. If we can get James Davenport out there for every play, not injured, then we don't need to trade up for anybody. But the problem is we can't guarantee that they will be, that. And James Houston, I really don't. I don't have injury concerns with James Houston. I mean, he had a broken ankle, which is kind of like a freak thing. You don't usually have people having broken bones. You know what I mean? If it was
freak play, a broken. Sometimes a broken bone is better. Like, it's broken, you fix it, you're good. It's not like a tendon getting torn, all this nasty. I mean, it's a tough rehab, but like, it's almost better. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly my point. So I'm not even concerned about him. We saw him come back. He worked his butt off to get back before the end of the season. Much like CD Deuce, but CD Deuce is no longer here. But he worked his butt off to get back, and he did play a little bit in the NFC Championship game. And we know that if he was able to be on the field for more snaps in the NFC Championship game, and he didn't have that rust, it most likely would have been a different outcome. If he could have got
you keep Brock Purdy in that pocket or get him down that one time he was able to scramble, I feel you.
Right. But then if you look at that, that's one of the reasons that I want to trade up for Dallas Turner.
Yeah. I like your thought process about it. Like, if you're going to trade up, you're going to get, there are question marks with James and Davenport. So if you go get a guy I know you didn't say you're sure of anybody, but you go and get your guy. For you, it sounds like it's Dallas Turner. I have no problem with that. He's one of the few that I would trade up for too, of any position. And there is one cornerback, but I'm also with you on that too. So I love how you explained that.
Yeah.
The thought process of moving up.
So who's the cornerback that you would trade up for?
It's Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. He's that one guy. It's hard to find any, glaring holes in his game. And he's battle tested. He's a high character guy, but playing at Alabama and take it for what it is. The Lions do love that. Like Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, Aaron Glenn, they love bringing in guys that played for Nick Saban, especially on the defensive end. Actually, I'm going to take that back because they took Jamison Williams too. But they've been going back to that well. You got Brian Branch last year. They like how they're coached up and how they're ready to go. And this was the last year that Nick Saban was the coach at Alabama. So not only did the kid produce, but you're going to get that type of hard worker, that type of character guy, that FBI, football IQ, that he's the type of guy that Dan Campbell wants on this team. So that's why I would trade up. I say that with a little bit of an asterisk. It depends on how expensive it is. I'm very hesitant trading up for a cornerback. He's just the one guy I would. And that's if you can get him at 18 for a reasonable price, or if he falls to 22, 24, and it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. He's the one I say, you know what, this might be the time to go get him. But if it's like 14, 12, and it's going to cost, multiple first rounders, it's just something outrageous. There are a ton of very good, if not really good, cornerbacks in this draft. They all need development, like you said. That's the other part of it. I should have led with that. Like Terrion Arnold himself, they all are going to need a little bit of time. Like none of them are going to step up and be the number one. It's just too hard to do in the NFL these days. And I'm not an expert cornerback analyst, but there's no Sauce Gardner in this group. At least I don't believe so. So you put that together, you could justify taking a cornerback in the first round at 29 or wherever because you get that fifth year on his contract and you can develop him with an extra year. But on the flip side, man, you look in the third, fourth round, there are some really good cornerbacks that I would be thrilled with, especially if it means I can get another guy in the first round.
Yeah, all those are excellent points. Let's actually look at some of the strengths and weaknesses for. for Terrion Arnold.
Okay.
Because we talked about him first.
Perfect.
And they're all, the strengths are good and the weaknesses are all very concerning, as we talked about the development that he needs and everyone needs. So let me just pull this up. All right. So for his strengths, and I got this from A to Z Sports. Shout out A to Z Sports. They do great draft analysis. So if you guys haven't checked that out, go ahead and check that out. But he's an aggressive ball hawk. Okay. He had 12 PBUs and 5 interceptions in 2023. He's disruptive and aggressive at the line of scrimmage. He stays on top of fade routes and works back to the football. Okay, so these things are all very good for him. Let me pull up a bigger one. All right, so he's twitchy, change of direction, stays glued to the hip pocket on in-breaking routes, accelerates out of his speed turn, and undercuts passing windows, elite run defender. And that's something that we definitely need out of our cornerbacks. They have to be elite run defenders willing to tackle. He's a violent block shedder, heat-seeking missile in pursuit, above-average tackler, and rarely blitz, but flash potential as a pass rusher. Now, him being a heat-seeking missile and a block shedder is something that I really liked about Sione Vaki. Right. And Sione Vaki is someone that we probably can get. I think he's projected to go day 3. So 4th, 5th round, something like that. I would be thrilled with someone like him, and the Lions obviously love him because they've met with him multiple times. And at every time that they could meet with him, they met with him at the Senior Bowl, they met with him at the Combine, they met with him on the top 30 visit. So that guy is my guy. But if we're talking about in the first round, from these strengths, this is why you would trade up for a guy like Terrion Arnold. Now, do you have anything to add before we go to his weaknesses?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I love the ones that you called out specifically in terms of fit with the Lions, like being an above-average run defender or being a willing run defender, an above-average tackler. Those things, that tenacity that he plays with. You know what? Actually, I took a picture of that so I could reference this. But they love aggressive ball hawks. Like, that's how they like I know Kirby Joseph is a safety, but when you think of Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson, all of that screams, ball hawk, disruptive and aggressive at the line of scrimmage. Things that don't necessarily require extra coaching, or some of that's just like internal. Like just being an aggressive defender. Of course, and I know you're going to get to the weaknesses, and I saw a few of them. There's some concern with being too aggressive or being handsy, but I would almost rather try to coach that out of someone if it's too much versus trying to get them to, hey, come on, we need more aggression. So those are the things that stood out to me on the strengths.
Yeah, that was like there is something that I have seen from him, and we'll see if that's also in the weaknesses that I wanted to get to. All right. So as far as his weaknesses, he's undersized for an outside cornerback. Now, I don't really go with the size situation because I feel like a few years ago, 5'9" was like a normal size for a cornerback. And now you're looking at like someone like 5'9", 5'10" is undersized. And obviously, it's going to depend on who you're playing. If you're playing up against a bunch of 6'3", 6'4" receivers, yes, you can call them undersized. But if they have good technique, that will make up for a lot of things. So he will miss with his hands at the line of scrimmage, needs a tight pre-snap alignment to land his punch consistently. Now, that was the thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into the rest of the stuff. Because if we look at, what was that guy's name? I know his last name is Awuzie. I don't remember his first name. Cheetah or something. Cheeto Awuzie. But that was the thing. Yeah. So that was the thing that, for me, I was like, because I never saw him use his hands. When he was in man coverage, it was never press coverage. It was supposed to be press coverage, but it was never press coverage because he never got his hands up. And it was crazy to me because he was decent in coverage, but he would not make use of the jam. He wouldn't redirect receivers. It was just weird to me to see a person do that and still be decent in coverage. When I played, I would be considered an undersized corner, but I played a lot bigger. I would love to get my hands on receivers and just dominate them and just get them like, you're running the route that I'm telling you to run. Whatever the coach told you, this is what you're doing today. When you come up, and that's what the type of thing that I like to see in my corners. Like, your route is his route. It's not whatever the quarterback told you in the huddle. It's not whatever the coach said. It's what I want you to do. Someone like Deion, but obviously Deion was the best to ever do it. But, this is the type of situation. So with him missing with his hands, that concerns me.
How much do you think that can be coached, the missing with your hands? Is that a coachable trait? And the undersized, that doesn't bother me. Of course, it'd be nice to have a bigger cornerback to cover some of the bigger wide receivers. But this Lions team, they don't care as much about it. Amik Robertson's 5'8". Like, he plays bigger.
Yeah, if you're a dog, you're a dog. But as far as can that be coached up? Yes. It definitely can be coached up. It's not a big thing. They do hand drills all the time. Hand-eye coordination.
That's what I noticed. A lot of the weaknesses, and I was going to bring up, a lot of the weaknesses are things that can be coached.
Yes.
Versus the strengths, there's like some innate ability in the strengths. I like seeing that. Weaknesses that can be improved upon versus having to like turn a player into an aggressive player or calm someone. Like, I like what I'm seeing.
Yeah, you can't turn a cat into a dog. And people have thought that they could, and then they've drafted someone who wasn't a dog, and they thought they could make him one, and that guy was out of the league in 3 years.
Number 3 pick a couple years ago.
Who was that guy's name?
Out of Ohio State. I don't mean to throw shots at Okuda.
He was a Jag.
I do wish
just a guy.
Yeah,
Jeff Okuda.
He was supposed to,
for those of you who don't know,
he had all the
Go ahead.
He had all the skills, the cornerback skills, but there was something, and I still don't even know that there was something missing, and it didn't work out here in Detroit or Atlanta. Actually, now he's going down to Texas, going down to see Houston. Anyways, I didn't mean to go off base talking about Okuda while we're talking about Terrion Arnold.
But I hope we see him. I hope we do. When we play the Texans, I hope he starts. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yes. Because I think there's some other corners like Derek Stingley. I think he has some injury concerns as well. So if he's backing him up and he happens to be injured that game, put J-Mo on him and just cook him the entire game. Just please. I just want to see it.
Oh, yeah. I think.
All right.
That's going to be a good game. Side note, that'll be a good game. But
that's going to be a good game.
As you were saying.
But I hope it's a one touchdown game, and J-Mo catches the winning touchdown over Jeff Okuda. That would be just that. I would tell like
I knew why. I forget. That's why we get along. Like you're pro J-Mo. Like you're still optimistic. Like you see this how special he could be. I've been laughed at for years. The dude is so special. We haven't seen anywhere close to it yet.
Dude, that touchdown he scored in the NFC Championship game to open up the scoring. I lost my mind.
Scratching the surface.
Yeah, I was jumping around, screaming in my house. I lost my mind.
It was perfect timing. It looks like a gazelle, but it's so fast. It's the more he got better like every single game last year. it was fun to watch. Imagine him another year, 2, 3 in. I'm excited. Not many cornerbacks can cover that man.
And that's the difference. Like, that's the thing I don't understand about like the JMO haters. Like, I'm gonna tell you, I'm 100% a Jeff Okudah hater because Jeff Okudah didn't show anything. Like at times he looked like he never played football before, and I was like, how is he on the team? Now JMO, as we said, he developed every single week. He got better every single week, and then it was like every time, okay, he can't catch. All right, by the fourth or fifth game, he was catching everything. You know what I mean?
And Goff was throwing it to him on those big situations for first downs, not just second down and 10. It was third down and 7. We need this. He threw it to JMO. That's you gotta love to see. And this NFL, while we're on the cornerback topic, I know we're talking JMO, but the NFL is such a mismatch or such a matchup game where the offense is trying to find mismatches against the defense. And the defenses as well are trying to confuse the offense. But you think of the mismatch that JMO can provide, St. Brown, some of these other trios or foursomes across the NFL, having one lockdown cornerback almost it's not meaningless because that does take away parts of the field and limits what the offense can do. But there are so many weapons on teams now. Like, that's where I'm leaning to maybe not going cornerback in the first round, is because the value for what you're getting there, none of them are going to be able to cover Justin Jefferson. Like, we see him twice a year. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. I'll even throw Christian Watson. I'm not a big Christian Watson fan, but Christian Watson, they got Jaden Reed. They got some good receivers out in Green Bay, but Houston, I think we play the Colts in Tennessee. Moral of the story is these teams in the NFL, not just the Lions, it's becoming so offense heavy, and these weapons are so electric. You need 3 or 4 cornerbacks. Like, you need a full secondary, and they got to be smart too.
That's right.
It's hard to find that mix.
It is. It's hard to find the mix, which is why, and we're just giving a lot away here, but that's just the way the conversation goes. This is why I'm only high on trading up for a defensive end, because I feel like we just need that one more piece to solidify that line. And if you put a guy like Jared,
it helps the cornerbacks.
Right, exactly. It helps all levels of the defense. You know, the defensive line is the secondary's best friend. You know, if you're getting constant pressure on that quarterback and he doesn't have time to throw, or he doesn't have time to step into the throw, he doesn't have time to go through his reads, he's making bad decisions. And that makes this secondary look even better. You're going to have a lot of PBUs. You're going to have a lot of incomplete passes. You're going to have a lot of interceptions. You know? So
and it's weird. What's the number one strength of Terrion Arnold? Aggressive ball hawk, 12 BBUs,
He's an aggressive
5 interceptions.
He's an aggressive ball hawk, you know? And that was the thing, like, the whole CD Deuce situation, when someone was like, oh, he picked off Baker on a tip pass. He was there. You know, he had to be in position. And he had to make the catch. Terrion Arnold.
The same people ripping on Brian Branch for picking off Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, it was tipped, but he was in the right position.
Right. He knows where he's supposed to be.
Weird how that works.
You know? It didn't just like hit him in the helmet. He's like,
a lot.
Yeah. You know,
right? So, and then he caught it one-handed and he did his thing. But you're right. Keep going.
Exactly. You know, so when these guys are in position to run under a ball that's tipped, that means they're in the right position, right? If Brian Branch was 2 or 3 yards off, like he wasn't in the position he was supposed to be in, that ball is just falling harmlessly on the turf.
Yeah.
You know,
Iffy Melifonwu in the NFC North in the game where they clinched it, where he had the interception at the end of the game. When I first saw it, I was like, it was sweet. He made the play and it was great, but it was a pretty whack pass from Nate Mullins. I think it might have been tipped, or it was a bad pass. But he was talking on a podcast It was a duck. It was.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking on a podcast a couple weeks ago, and he described that play as one of his favorite plays of the year. And he actually described the play and what he was thinking to go and be in that position. Like, all right, it's this scenario, and they're probably going to go to Justin Jefferson. You see him making this type of cut, so he started leaning towards the center of the field, over to the left. Like, a lot of people, including myself, I take that for granted. I don't think about that, but those little things, even on tip passes, like, that's why I love your idea of why you're going to get if you were to trade up in the first round, why you go and get an edge, because of how it helps everyone else. Like, you might have to pass up on a Terrion Arnold or Quinyon Mitchell or whoever other people want in the first round, but whoever you get in the second or third round is that much better because of the edge you got in the first.
And then you have to think about this, right? Shout out Ify Melifano, my Nigerian brother. I did my heritage. I'm like 51% Nigerian, so shout out.
No way. Let's go.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. That's why you're trying to get to the cookout.
That's why I'm trying to get to the cookout.
Right.
Viewers on your show, this is a hopefully family-friendly joke that we have on our Wake Up Woodward show. But, yeah, they're trying to get me to the cookout.
It's very family-friendly. Yeah. But I saw that same podcast. And he was like, if it was a better pass, he was going to pick it off anyway. So
yeah, okay, thank you. I forgot that part. Yes.
Yeah. So again, I mean, even if we talk about the people now, you're saying, okay, we might have to pass on the Terrion Arnold, but we'll have some great second and third rounders. Think about next year. Think about free agency. Right? Now some of the top corners may be looking to take a little bit less money to come and play for the Lions.
Yeah. You see, wait, DJ Reader is making that much of a difference? Ali McNeil just signed on for 4 more years, and they're about to pay Hutch, and they drafted an edge they drafted Dallas Turner in the first round in 2024. I want to go be a cornerback on that team. I want to be a linebacker behind that. I don't know. I know you're a good cook. Like, maybe you should be in sales. Like, you're selling me on this.
I have a little bit of experience.
Serious.
My father was a salesman, so it's in my blood.
It's something sales is something it's hard to teach too, by the way. It's in your blood a little bit, or it's not.
Yeah. My dad used to try to sell me the craziest stuff, and I'd just be like, all right, Dad. Yeah. All right. So we'll quickly look at the rest of the weaknesses for Mr. Terrion Arnold. So after the hands, say he overcommits and crosses feet versus outside releases. So I did see that something about his balance. If you look at Quinyon Mitchell, he falls down a lot. So balance and technique is something that is going to need to be drilled and coached. What is the word I'm looking for? A lot. Physical, grabby play style could lead to more penalties in the NFL. Definitely, if you look at how the NFL is upset because scoring was down a bit. And they want to promote more scoring, which is, what was the reason for the kickoff rule being changed. So those are things that you have to consider going into the draft. Allow separation to cornerbacks if the wide receiver swipes his hand down. So again, if you're missing the jam, your footwork has to be on point so you don't give up that separation. So those two things that we saw, misses the punch sometimes, and he can give up separation. He can cross his feet on outside releases, things of that nature. So all those things are pretty concerning because they all go together. If you're missing on the punch and then your feet aren't where they're supposed to be, then everything suffers. You're going to give up yards. Um, Struggles to turn his hips and accelerates from off coverage. That's interesting to me because when I looked at his combine workouts, his hips were super, super fluid. He was able to turn his hips really well. So maybe it's just not translating on the field, and that's something that he just needs more practice with. Mediocre route anticipation and closing bursts from off coverage. That's concerning to me because the few times that you will be playing zone, you have to be able to close that space. If you're not closing that space, you're giving up more yards. If it's a 4-yard curl, a 3-yard comeback, you just want to give up those 2-3 yards, on the catch. If you're in zone, you don't want to give up, extra yards where he's able to turn and run. That's where you get into trouble. Gets caught up in traffic versus bunch formations. That goes with the route anticipation. So all of his weaknesses kind of string together. So what did you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think you pointed out some great ones. The ones that would concern me the most, and not that they can't be coached, but it's the ones that are harder to coach. It's the athleticism stuff, the struggling to turn his hips and accelerate from off coverage. Now, I'm with you. I thought I saw some more fluid hips. So I'll go back and double check and see maybe we're in agreement versus this analysis. But you want your cornerbacks to have really fluid hips, be able to flip them and turn them and be smooth in and out of these different routes. I mean, they're having to guard the best athletes in the world running backwards. Like, your hip mobility and your hip flexibility are as important as everything. I like it. If there was a prospect I liked and I saw a weakness that was undisciplined in zone coverage, that wouldn't scare me away. Like, especially a guy like Terrion Arnold. He's a coachable kid, and seeing an undisciplined in zone coverage for whatever reason, maybe he just hasn't seen it as much or hasn't been as exposed, or because he was so good, he wasn't as exposed. They didn't go to him in those situations. They picked on Kool-Aid McKinstry or someone else he played with. So some of them, I think, are totally, especially with Terrion, able to be coached out. But those things like the struggle to turn hips, the route anticipation, and natural anticipation and instinct, that's the stuff that Brian Branch had that made up for a slower 40 time. It's his instincts. He just plays football that way. So those are the things that have my eyebrows raised. Like, all right, how is his anticipation? It's only going to get faster. The NFL game is going to get faster. So I like the ones you pointed out.
So you brought up Kool-Aid McKinstry. So what do you think was? Because Kool-Aid is like he's not really now in the draft process mentioned in the same breath with Terrion Arnold. People think that Kool-Aid is going to be there at 29, and some people even have him going in the second. But Terrion Arnold was the one that was getting the targets. So what is?
So what does that tell you?
That tells me that Kool-Aid is better.
Who are they throwing away from? You're right. If you're not throwing at Kool-Aid, you're throwing at Terrion. Whatever the coaches coaching against him are seeing him game planning, it's away from Kool-Aid and towards Terrion.
Yeah. I mean, when I played, people didn't throw at me. So I understand why. But then it's just like now on the NFL level, is it just the mock drafters? Is it the scouts? Like, who is responsible for Terrion Arnold being widely regarded as a much better cornerback than Kool-Aid McKinstry? That's confusing.
It's a great question, because there really isn't that much, that you can measure that separates them. I think there's something a little unknown or a little the intangibles about Terrion. Like, my favorite thing about him, tying into his high character, is his coachability. You can just see it. Like, you can see what kind of teammate he is. You can see the relationship he had with Nick Saban and his wife and his family, like at their pro day, it was that's what I want. I want that on my team. Like that's what I know. Dan Campbell wants that stuff, and he performs. Like so, I think he can just keep getting better. He's already very, very talented, and he's relatively complete. But he's one that you know was going to get better. You're not worried about him working hard. Like he's that football guy who you have no questions about him coming into your locker room, getting right to work with Carlton Davis or with Amik Robertson. Like having him under their wing, or if maybe you go get Stephon Gilmore later on in free agency. But that's like you put him in a room with veterans, only good things are going to happen. I don't know as much about Kool-Aid McKinstry, but he's talented. Don't get me wrong, he's talented. I think he's going to be a victim of cornerbacks being moved down the draft because of 4 or 5 quarterbacks going or all these offensive linemen or a run on receivers. That doesn't mean Kool-Aid's not a good player. I just happen to like Terry a little better.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for some runs on some positions. Just like with the Bears having pick number 9. Don't think, I know you need an edge. Don't think about it. Just get Caleb his center. Just get him his center. Let them grow together. Because they're really bad.
Oh, so you're saying you want him to go center?
I want them to go center. Yes.
That edge.
Yeah, don't think about edge.
So you say that they're bad developing like offensive linemen or players in general, or like
they're
you don't
bad
want them to draft an edge. Okay, got you.
Yeah.
So you're saying it as when I hear them draft a center, to me it sounds like a smart move because they've added all these pieces around the out. Okay, so we're in alignment. You weren't like taking a shot at Chicago, like take him because we don't want you to take an edge.
Yes.
Both.
we got.
I don't want to see an edge opposite Montez Sweat, and I don't want to see Caleb Williams with a good offensive line. I don't want either of those to happen. Probably what they should do.
I mean, it's a catch-22. Now, if you get him a center, the center can direct traffic because he's the quarterback of the offensive line. But if the rest of your offensive line is meh, you're not going to be able to block a Dallas Turner and a Hutch and a DJ Reader and then the Lee McNeil. So I think it would just work better in our favor because we don't have to see someone like Dallas Turner or Jared Verse twice a year. We don't want to see that.
Right. So, we don't.
So Chicago, if you're listening, go ahead.
You're saying take a center. Take Jackson Powers Johnson at 9. Let's have a run on some offensive linemen so that you can trade up for Dallas Turner or Jared Verse at a cheaper price at 20, at 22, or maybe Verse falls.
I've seen that Verse could fall. And I don't know. I mean, he might wind up being better than Dallas Turner. He might. And then Dallas Turner could turn into
not a sure thing.
Anderson. Yeah. But with
he's got that talent.
He does. So with either one of them, like I'm happy. But I just want you to get one of them. That's it. I just want you to get one of them.
And to your point, and to me, there's a drop off in edge rushers. Definitely after a drop off from the first round to like the second/third, and these are all projected rounds. I'm thinking you got the top 3, and then there's the Braswell, the Adisa Isaac, Booker, and Jonah Ellis, like that next group, and then you have a big drop off. There were some gems in there, and there's one I have on my mind, and he's very James Houston-like. But because of that drop-off, there's depth at wide receiver. There's depth at cornerback. There's pretty good depth at offensive line, too. That's another reason why if you can get your hands on one of those top 3 guys, if you believe them, it may be worth it because there aren't those guys or even close to it later in the draft.
That's true. And I think you're talking about Mr. Chop Robinson.
I'm not. I should
You're
have.
not?
I should have mentioned him in that second group, and I'm not. You want me to tell you who I'm thinking?
Yeah.
Javon Solomon out of Troy. When you were talking about James Houston being at a small school, Javon Solomon, he's about James Houston's like size and weight. He's a little undersized for your traditional edge rusher, but he led the nation in sacks with 16. And it was Troy, so it was a smaller school, not crazy competition, but he's got that it factor in him, that special, not little man syndrome, but like that special pesky little edge rusher. Just he's the one a 6'8" or a 6'7" offensive tackle doesn't want to mess with. He's just this little pesky guy who's going to go get your quarterback. He's way more talented than I'm describing him as just a little pesky guy. But what he does, to be able to go and get 16 sacks at any level, like you said, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. So I like him. Check him out if you haven't heard of him after. Troy, out of Troy.
Okay, I definitely will, because I have not heard of him.
Yeah. And he'd be like a 4th, 5th rounder maybe. So he's later on. He's not a top 1 or 2 round guy.
Well, I mean, I was watching the Rocked On podcast with Will Rock. And he had, I think it was Football Guys Up, is the site. He was talking about the trades. And if we would trade up into the top 15, we don't have to give up a first rounder from next year.
Okay.
So it could.
You have to give something later this year and next year probably, but not a first rounder next year.
Right. So we could keep our first rounder next year. So this is why I'm like really hoping Turner is around. I think we trade up to 14.
Okay. And what Saints are there now? Not that they're going to be there on trade night or on draft night, but they're there now.
Yeah. I mean, if the Colts are going to take a corner, we could just, I don't know.
But Seattle,
if the Colts are taking a corner, we could trade up to 16.
They're probably going defensive line.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, it depends because Seattle, they could use some defensive pass. They could use an edge rusher or a defensive tackle. They could use a safety too. But what they could do, you trade back to 29. They need offensive line help too. They didn't re-sign Evan Brown. I think they're looking for a center and a guard. So maybe that's reason for them to move back. Or maybe, and this is part of the positions kind of going on a run, maybe they go a Graham Barton at 16. And he keeps climbing up, but people think of him in the 20s, mid to late 20s. Some think to Detroit. He's slowly creeping up. Like, there are 7 or 8 really, really talented offensive linemen. And I may be underselling. There might be more. But of all kinds of versatility. Graham Barton's one of my favorites. So it's so hard to predict this, man. Like what are they going to do? But they're Mike McDonald, their new head coach, he's defensive-minded. But I think your point of whether it's 14 or 16 or 15 or 18, like not having to give up a first-rounder next year, not having to give up too much draft capital, even if that gap in the Lions picks from 73 to 164, there are some really talented players in like that 100 to 140 range, where they're projected. If you can trade up, you may have to give something later or something next year, but you get another pick in that 100 range. I would be thrilled.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's look at some of the edges.
Yes.
We know which one I want to start with. Let's. We're not even going to play
Dallas?
any games here. We're starting with Dallas. All right. So looking at his strengths, Former five-star recruit, 3-year contributor for Alabama, explosive first step, pursuit range to convert pressures into sacks, elite speed for an edge rusher, can stick with slot receivers down the sideline. I mean, he did run a 4.46. Quickly convert speed to power, lots of pop in his initial strike. He does have really long arms, so when he hits him with that long arm bull rush, it's a sight to see. Good length, quick hands, swift inside counter, a blur crossing over gaps, creates a moving target for front side blocks and sets a reliable edge, high motor defender, never out of the play. So, I mean, why not?
What's the top rated Michelin star chef? Is it 1 or is it
I think
1
it's
or
2
5?
star. Is it 5 stars?
I don't
think
know.
it's 5 stars.
I couldn't remember if like from those strengths, like whoever was the food critic that night, they were very happy with their meal. That is a lot of ingredients that you like in an edge rusher. I'm sure the Falcons like that.
That's my problem.
So you better hope the Falcons trade back.
That's my problem. I don't really see him getting past the Falcons. I know I did a breakdown on their other needs.
Pass rush, like
they're at number 8.
Pass rush, cornerbacks. If I were them, I would trade down. I would trade back.
I don't think they take a cornerback that high, especially in,
I think they want
in this draft. If there was a Sauce Gardner, yes. But there is no Sauce Gardner, there's no Patrick Surtain. Because the Falcons are at number 8, maybe a Drake May falls or one of these quarterbacks.
Where a Vikings or a Broncos or someone moves up to their spot?
Yeah. I mean, the Broncos moving up still doesn't help us because the Broncos are at 12. So if the Falcons just go back, we're going to have to jump the Falcons.
If I were the Falcons, I'd want Minnesota's picks.
Yeah. I'm afraid of the Falcons as far as Dallas Turner. I think Verse is going to be there. I think he's going to be there in the top 15. Maybe even 20. You know, I think if you trade up to if he's in 20, you trade up and you pull the trigger on Jared Verse.
Oh yeah, if either of those guys get to 20, I think you make that move.
Yeah.
And I'm make my final decision next week, but I'm in the camp right now of either sticking at 29 or moving back. Maybe, if someone falls to 26 or 27, I'm not considering that moving up, although it is. But for the sake of those two guys falling to 20, I say move up. Go get them. Bring them home. Especially with the
anyone is in that range. Yeah, you got to go get them. You can't sit there. You can't sit there, Brad, at number 29 and watch Jared Verse go somewhere else. All right.
Brad can't sit. He can't sit still.
No. I don't want him to. Sai says I'm echoing.
It's slight, but I don't think it's changed since we started. Let me pull up into YouTube. Hey guys, Phil, John, Danny, Sai. Am I echoing, guys?
Yeah, he says it's pretty bad.
Jeff.
All right. Let me make a change here. Let me see if I can.
Phil, how are you gonna throw strays at Sam? This is an Australian podcast, and you're throwing strays at Flannel, my guy. I love you, Phil. I also love Flannel. That's my guy.
All right, let me see something here.
National flame throwing. Oh, if you're doing that, I'll talk to the chat. Hey guys,
Hold on, bear
Bear
with me
with me
1 second, guys. Let me see if
Oh,
I can change this audio.
you bet. I'll get a
Let's
chance to say hi.
see.
What's up, Cy? Look at all these messages. Witherspoon's a good example. This is from Danny G. Witherspoon is a good example of someone considered as too handsy, pause, who developed and learned how to play with the right amount of physicality. That's a great example. That's my concern about Quinyon Mitchell, that he's too handsy. He grabs and he pulls too much. But Danny G, that's a really good example of how that could be coached out of someone. I got to put some more thought into that. Just think about this. Gibbs year 2, Laporta year 2, Amon-Ra coming off his best season. Jim, bro, you guys are throwing some names out here. So, Chef,
All
Cy
right.
Gray
Can
says
you hear
that
me
Jared
now?
Verse is there at 19. Hope I can hear you now.
Is there an echo?
Still in the chat. Still on echo? It's slight. Not where I can't understand you, or but I don't know how it's coming through.
Yeah, how's it coming through in the chat?
We'll see. I'll keep an eye on it if you want to either tee up what we're talking next or talk more about Dallas Turner. Because I know when you put that up, I go off screen and you can't hear me. So I'll see if someone responds.
All right. Sai says there's still an echo. Yeah, I can actually hear the echo in mine. Let me see.
From yourself?
How about now? Yeah, I can hear it from mine.
It just got a little more echoey.
It got a little bit more echoey?
Yeah.
How about now?
Sai, okay, I appreciate you guys. Is it getting worse or is it getting better?
Let me see.
You're good.
Because I know that there was one. I thought it was just because of my my earphones also having a microphone. But these have a microphone which I've muted. Let me see here.
Danny G, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say you're leaning towards offensive line or wide receiver in the first round. So Sai said it's about the same, whatever you've changed. So at least it's not getting worse.
Test. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
You can hear me, but now I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me now?
All right.
Now, brown cow.
I have lost you.
Unique New York.
Hold on.
Can you hear me, Danny and Sai?
All right, I think I can hear you now.
I'm cool, by the way, so
Nope.
take your time. And I know you can't hear me, so I'm talking to the screen.
What is going on with this audio?
You're good. You're good, man.
Let me see.
Hear me. I'm gonna type.
All
we're
type in
interacting chat. I'm texting through the chat all the way to Australia. They can hear.
But what about the
chat.
echo? Can you guys in the chat still hear the echo?
Echo. Echo.
Because I can't. Now I can't hear anything. I can't even hear myself. I know that you can hear me.
You can't hear yourself?
I can't hear myself. So I could hear myself before. It's literally unchanged. The only thing that's changed is now I can't hear Broder.
They can hear both of us. And you
bear with me while I try to figure out this audio situation.
You do it. Do your work, and I'll chat with the chat. All right, so Danny, Sai. We're talking edge rushers and cornerbacks. What is your first round strategy? As in, are you even considering a cornerback or an edge, or would you move up to either one of those positions,
All right, so
or
I can hear you
are you
now.
not on any of those and want wide receiver or offensive line? Danny G, you did say offensive line. What do you think, Danny, inside? Because the more I think about it, and I haven't decided who I'm going to go with for my final mock draft next week,
Can you guys
but the
hear me?
more I think about it, the way that I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Is there an echo?
No. Well,
Chad, is there
can
an
you hear
echo?
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. It sounds different. So let's see if Danny can hear us, because it sounds like the echo's gone, at least in my earphone.
Is that
No,
no?
no is in the echo.
Okay,
Oh,
no echo. Let's go.
hooray!
Let's go.
Yeah, let's
All right,
go.
we got it fixed.
Thank you, Danny.
Um,
Thank you, Sai.
how is the level of my voice?
To me, it's a little low. I can hear you, but it's lower than it was before.
What
Danny
about
says
now?
not a problem. I think you sound good right now. I'll
All right,
keep an eye if they say it gets worse or something, but I think you're
cool.
good now. Danny says no problem. Cy Gray says his choices are going edge first round, cornerback, edge first, cornerback, interior offensive line, and distant 4 wide receiver. But he's thinking edge
So,
first round too, edge and cornerback early.
yeah, but are you trading upside or are you just staying at 29?
While he answers that, do you think you kind of have to trade up if you want an edge? Like, I have a hard
Yes.
time seeing all 3 of those guys fall. I think you got to trade up.
I mean, I think there you go, Sai. There you go, Sai. Hey, we're in the same situation. I mean, I think verse is more realistic. Um,
He
but
might be falling.
I think Turner's just going to be going. I don't think if he gets past Atlanta somehow, and if he gets past the Bears, because the Bears need to take offensive line because they're getting a shiny new quarterback. They need to protect him. Um, so
Don't
if
tell
he
the Bears
gets
to trade back, by
past,
the way.
I don't think they're trading back. You got two top
I
10
don't. They don't
picks.
need more draft capital.
No, you got two
I want
top
that
10
net 9
picks
pick
and a
is going to
bad
be.
team.
That's some serious real estate.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why they need a couple things. They spent and they have potential to do some damage.
yeah,
They need a couple pieces, and it doesn't necessarily mean a star or a top 10 pick.
yeah,
Um, they could still get. They might be able to get Jackson Powers Johnson at 18 or 20 or 25,
yeah,
or maybe you can convince the Bears want to do it, but someone in that situation, they want the Vikings 11 and 23,
mhm,
or the Cardinals. Someone's got 36 and 40. Like, if I were in the top 10 and I had 2 picks, I'd either trade up and try to get 2 top picks in the top 5, like the Cardinals or the Texans last year
yeah.
via the Cardinals, and just go. You get your quarterback, you get your defensive stalwart, and you do the damn thing, or trade back and get some awesome capital in the second and third round. What if Washington? How about this? I'll be really quick because this is totally off topic. What if
Mhm.
they take Jaden Daniels at 2 and then find a way to trade back into 5 and take Malik Neighbors? And your offense starts over Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, LSU, and then you got Terry McLaurin and Curtis. Like, what if you go 2 LSU guys? Anyways,
I
that's
think
why
hey,
cornerbacks are difficult to project.
I I would be interested in seeing that because then it makes our competition like the Eagles and the Cowboys tires them out more. You
Yeah.
know, I'm like play everybody against each other and make that happen so that we have an easier path. You know, but I
Chef,
mean,
there's an ingredient in your kitchen that I haven't heard yet. I want to see what you think of Latu. Are you putting that in any dishes? They
I'm
had
not
to
putting
lie
it in
to
any of
out
my
of UCLA.
dishes. It's not allowed in my kitchen.
He scare you? Does the neck scare you?
His neck scares me
Neck injuries.
particularly because of what just happened with Leighton Vander Esch. Um, they had the same situation. Now, Leighton Vander Esch had to medically retire after 3 years in the NFL. I think Latu sat out like 2 years, and he medically retired from Washington. So the neck thing scares me a lot. One, it's
That's
always
fair.
like one bad hit or one awkward pull this way or that way, but now you've already medically retired for it once. So I would think that you're more susceptible to it. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm not in favor of trading up for him, but I mean, if he falls to 29, I feel like we
That's
got to take
tricky
him.
because there's upside there. The
Yeah,
injury, that is totally a fair concern,
yeah,
especially because it's a neck injury. Like, of all the injuries for a defensive player, a football player, a neck injury. He did, the last 2 seasons at LSU, he did play in 12 and 13 games, and he produced. So he showed he can be healthy, but you still always worry about, is it going to happen again? Or does it take 3 years or 5 years? Like, I would always be thinking about that.
yeah.
And that's what slows me down. I drafted him in a mock draft last week or no 2 weeks ago, and actually Easy, who's on the other side of this wall, he turned me on a lot too. And I know we both learned a little bit more about him and have our concerns. But man, if he's healthy, his pass rush bag, it's great. It's deep.
But
He's
the
a
other,
veteran in a college person's body. Problem is
yeah,
he's got a grandpa's neck.
that's true. And the other thing that I'm really, if you couple the fact that he's pretty lackluster against the run and the fact that he has
Yeah,
that
you're
neck
right.
injury, I'm not trying to trade up. You know, I'm not trying to trade up. I
I
mean,
couldn't argue with
yeah, you can coach the run. I mean, if you look at how we did the year before last when we were terrible in that 1-6 start, and then all of a sudden we had a really good run defense out of nowhere. So that type of stuff, setting the edge and understanding your responsibilities in the run, it can be coached. But then there also has to be a willingness to do it. And you have to wonder if that neck injury takes away some of the willingness for him to stick his head in there and take on some of those big uglies in the run. You know what I mean? Um, so I,
there's some big boys in the NFL. Playing at UCLA, that's big time football, but we're talking about Trent Williams. We're talking about Penei Sewell. We're talking about Darisaw and Slater. Like, those are some big boys.
and then also, um, I saw one report out there talking about if you just look at him playing against top tier talent, he didn't win a lot. If you're looking at the Colorado game, uh, I think how many sacks did he have? He sacked Shador like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. I've seen a
Colorado's
couple on USC, but USC's offensive line was garbage.
Colorado's
I got to go
offensive
back
line
and
was
watch what he did
garbage.
against Washington.
Yeah,
I got to
I
go back
think
and watch. Now
Washington
that
he
you
did
pointed that
not do
out,
well at all.
so that's a telling scouting report out of you. They had one of the better they have an NFL offensive line,
Yeah,
and he didn't do anything? Question mark.
yeah. Um, I mean, we were able to get to Penix a little bit. It wasn't like the Alabama game where we had like 6 sacks, but I mean, we were able to rattle them. We were able to hit them. Um, and
Yeah.
as you said, they have an NFL offensive line over there. So I don't think he was great against Washington.
Yeah.
You know, So
But what you're telling me is maybe Jalen Harrell out of Michigan late in the draft?
late in the draft, yes, I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to
Yeah.
that. I'm not opposed to I mean McGregor late might be okay, but I think he only had like really 1 year of production,
hmm
you know. Um, and again, if you have those guys on defense that have 1 year of production, that kind of scares me. If you have guys on offense that have 1 year of production, it doesn't scare me as much because, like, if you look at Xavier Leggett, they're like, oh, well, he didn't do anything the prior few years. But okay, but last year he had like 1,200 yards receiving. And you know what I mean? Like, it was an explosion. They were getting him the ball, you know?
Yeah.
So,
On defense, it's about your motor. You can pick up on things like their motor, your effort, your aggressiveness, because you're trying to go get the ball or the quarterback. Um, I don't know if I thought about that. That's a really good thought, a concept that I agree with.
yeah, it's like a contract
Yeah,
year.
yeah. I'm gonna use that on the show, and I'll give you credit.
Hey, no
It's a good
problem.
thought. You
No
dog. You
problem.
dog.
All right. So if we'll look at some weaknesses for Dallas Turner. We'll do that pretty quickly. Um, so his weaknesses are he'll probably need to add weight for power rush to translate, which I mean, come on. Jared Verse added like 50 pounds of muscle in one summer. He doesn't have great bend at the top of the rush. He runs a 4.6. I think I think that can kind of, mitigate the bend situation. Lacks a go-to way of winning with his hands. Again, those things can be coached up, whether he puts a chop, a cross chop, or whatever the case may be. He can go work with Aaron Donald. I think the Lions should look at trying to hire him as a consultant. Maybe, just possibly. Brad Holmes knows him. All right. Disjointed and inaccurate hand usage. Again, that goes with the lack of go-to way of winning with his hands. Struggles to release contact once blocker lands his punch. That would probably be fixed with him adding weight and becoming more powerful. Spin move is poorly timed and uncoordinated. Again, that's something that can be worked on. 20% missed tackle rate in 2023. Um, Now you would have to go back and look at exactly what kind of tackles he was missing. You know,
The
if you
light
go
almost
back
fell
and
on
look
me.
at what happened.
Yeah. No, the light that's up here in this studio, it almost fell on me. The little
Oh,
flimsy
okay.
legs. But we're good.
Stay safe out
We're
there.
safe. We're alive. Yeah, it's hard out here in the streets. First to go get that quarterback and have your eyes directly on him, and hopefully you improve at tackling as you get older.
Yeah. Um, so I mean, any concerns about Dallas Turner's weaknesses?
No. So not really. And I know he's a stud. It's not like he's a perfect player or a guarantee, but he's a stud. A lot of these things, like we said, are coachable. I don't. While I love to see edges with bend, like that's the new hot trait, and it's valuable. But not having like elite bend at the top of the rush isn't the end of the world for me. Like there are other ways to be. Like he's such a good athlete. There are several other ways. James Houston needs that bend to make up for his size and he's an athlete, but like he's smaller and there are certain things about his game that he's deficient at. But that bend is a tool that not many other people have. So while the game may be trending that way, and we may be talking more about bend as a necessity moving forward, it doesn't scare me in a guy like Turner who's such an athlete.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely true. I
You know what I'm
mean, if
saying?
you're if he works with James Houston and James Houston helps him develop that hezzy, I mean, that's 446 coming back.
They got to bring like they got to bring like a point guard. Who had one of the nastiest hezzies in the NBA back in the day? Someone like
Allen Iverson.
I don't know. I keep seeing these clips of Jason Williams like coaching young point guards and like just talking about little things. Like I don't know. I'm fascinated by ex players coaching, like the Lions.
Skip to Malou, you know.
Skip to Ray for Alston.
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse me.
So he definitely could come
Those
in
are the
and
days,
show
man.
a thing or two. Yeah, the and one mixtapes. Those are my high school days.
Me too. We must be
Yeah,
about the same age, plus or minus a couple.
probably.
Isn't it funny? Like, I don't think we're old. When you look back and you think of how different basketball was,
Hmm.
how different baseball was, and we're seeing football go through this transition
Yeah.
too. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I'm not, but like it's a different game than it was when Jamal Lewis was running for the Ravens, or Larry Priest Holmes, or LaDainian Tomlinson. Like you had your Sean Alexander, you had your workhorse running backs that you
Hmm.
gave the ball to 30 times a game.
Yeah.
It's different now. Like we're gonna see a lot more. People are following the Lions. They're seeing a lot more dual running back backfields and using Gibbs. He's not getting 20 rushes. He's getting 12 rushes and 8 receptions. Things like that. It's getting very specialized. Never hurts
Well,
to have a guy like Dallas Turner on your defense.
exactly. For me, you know, while they talk about football being dangerous or whatever, so they're trying to make it safer for your kids to come and get this money. You know, so like I saw
Yep.
Derrick Henry say he's not letting his son play running back, and it's just like, why not? I get the fact that it's devalued and they don't want to pay you. Hey, they may not want to pay you 20 million a year, but they're gonna pay you 12.
Hey, Chef, I'll take it. I'll take that.
Exactly.
Dude, I'll take 8.
Exactly. If you're gonna say, "Oh, well, I'm
But you're
not
right.
paying you 20, I'm gonna pay you 12," you know.
Easiest negotiation of your life, mister. Accept.
Exactly. It's like, but I guess, I don't think inflation is that much where you can look at 12 million and like sneeze in the face of 12 million.
No. That's a good point of like someone who's confident or not as scared of the safety of it,
Mhm.
realizing, all right, NFL is going. I don't know if it actually is. Like it's kind of turned around a little bit, but we'll go with it. The NFL is moving away from running backs, so there's going to be
Mhm.
less people wanting to play running back. They're all going to be playing receiver. But if you learn how to pass block, you learn how to make your reads run in between tackles. You can catch the ball a little bit out of the backfield. That's like this isn't the perfect comparison, but like a knuckleballer in baseball.
Mhm.
There's so few of them. That's like your fastest way to the big leagues because
Mhm.
your competition is less. So
True.
so while running back and knuckleballers like probably aren't the best comparison, it's that path to being a pro or the path to a scholarship. Maybe not even NFL, path to a scholarship to go to college or maybe get some NIL money. Holy moly,
Yeah.
do it.
And with
That's
that,
why stop me so I don't go on a tangent, but that's why we see all these elbow injuries in baseball
mhm.
is because you now see what the game has turned into with these specialized pitchers throwing 100 miles per hour. So when
Mhm.
guys are 6 years or sixth grade, seventh grade, their parents are telling them you got to train to throw hard and to spin the ball and curve balls so
Mhm.
you can get a scholarship and NIL money and then make it to the big. So everything is kind of turned upside in every sport, turned upside down with NIL, with specialties, and it's no different with football and running backs. And we're going to see other positions too, but I'm excited to see the kick returns come back like that. I'm thinking about asking Brad Holmes a question tomorrow. I haven't decided what I'm going to ask, but like how he is addressing these new rules. Like, does it change his strategy at all? Does he prioritize a Mikey Sanders still as a defensive back because of what he can do in the kick return game? Maybe not as good in man coverage, or he's not your outside corner, but his versatility combined with being able to return kicks. Just a hypothetical because I know of Sanders still, but things like that.
Yeah. And then that brings in maybe a Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, yeah. Who I wouldn't want as a cornerback.
Yeah.
If he can play a little safety, play a little cornerback, he can play in the slot, he can return kicks. Woo. No hip drop tackles, so you maybe consider a wide receiver earlier than you would normally because you just want as many weapons as possible. I don't know.
I mean,
we're going to learn some strategies here.
I think they're trying to turn the NFL into the arena football league, but it's 100 yards and it's outdoors. You know,
I don't know if it's the right move. It's hard to tell.
I don't think
the
it
NBA is
is.
making a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't like watching the NBA right now. The game isn't
I don't
exciting.
watch NBA.
I like watching Steph Curry.
Yeah.
I like the best at 3-point shooting, but I don't like just you go down half the court, you jack up. There's no. It's less of the game of basketball. To me, just to me. I'm
Yeah.
worried about the NFL going that direction.
I mean, I think it would take a whole lot for the NFL to get, because it would just be like a really blatant type of thing. You just have to like remove tackling, like what they did for
Flag
the Pro
football.
Bowl. You know?
Yeah. Which
And then nobody's watching it.
is no. And it doesn't seem exciting. And I don't think it'll work, but not to play devil's advocate, but if something like that happens, kids now are already like they're moving the date to start playing football back farther, or the age where they play tackle football with helmets and pads and everything. So these kids are being exposed to flag football early. They're playing flag football, just 7-on-7 camps and stuff. So kind of like gambling on your phone is just the generation now is just part of what they grew up with. There's a generation growing up playing flag football, not thinking that it's going to be professional one day, but there will be a time where things like that actually become the pro sport. I'm not saying NFL is going to do that. I hope not. But like that idea, bro, the future is crazy.
That's a bad idea.
I know, right?
I mean,
Life.
I play flag football. Internationally, it's got some appeal.
Yeah.
But I mean, even internationally, like I did some coaching in Denmark.
Awesome.
That's
We got to talk
full
more about your
contact.
international explorations. Maybe another pod
Yeah,
for that.
another one.
Do you know I moved to Germany for a year?
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Maybe we have that conversation again one day.
Yeah.
International sports are fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah, there's I mean, if you look at, it's called IFAF. IFAF is the International Federation of American Football.
Okay.
If you it's not really a shameless plug because the company is now defunct. But if you go on Extra Point Consultancy, this was the sports consultancy business that I had. If you go to the Instagram, there's a lot of stuff on there. I had like interviews, all types of stuff. I had a series where I was interviewing players, women, men, from France, from Mexico, from wherever. You know.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was very interesting just to see their stories and see how they got involved in football. Because there's like No, sorry, not 100. There's like 71 countries that are involved in IFAF, and some of them don't have full
Mhm.
contact. Some of them just have like flag football, but Europe definitely has full contact. You know, so
Yeah,
all of that stuff.
they love their football in Germany.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I'm saying like the NFL they can't go flag football. It just can't, you know,
I don't
especially
think it
since
will
they're
happen, or at
expanding.
least not for.
Mhm.
Yeah, they are. The Lions just got some new marketing rights in Germany and another country, but like that, I think it's so smart. You gotta build up that. Amon St. Brown and his family from Germany, like they like sports too, especially there.
And that's how you know that Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be here.
That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, because
I
they
didn't
just
connect
got
those
those
dots. I mean,
marketing
like
rights. I just thought of that while I was talking
oh,
to you.
that's so smart. Like, why? Yeah, why would he? Yes, yes. And he's not one to like shy away. Like he loves his German heritage. You see him in the locker room get interviews in German. Like occasionally a question will come in. First time I ever talked to him, I barely remember any German in, but I knew V Gates is like what's up or what's going on in Germany. And he was like, huh? He's like, hey, you speak German? I was like, no, I don't, but I got your attention. And he dapped me up and moved on. Uh,
uh,
but it's funny how sports brings different cultures, countries, nations, continents together. I love sports.
yeah,
There are also a lot of trolls and haters.
there are. There
But
are.
I guess that's why
But
it's popular.
I feel like, the trolls and the haters are just miserable people. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
to I've got to root for teams to be bad because I'm a fan of another team, but I would never root for my own team to be bad.
Right?
You
Like,
know,
right?
it doesn't make any
I have to
sense.
like keep my bias when I'm being professional. I have to keep my. I was a Lions fan growing up. It's not like I was a diehard, but I was a
Mhm.
Tigers fan and Red Wings and Pistons. Being in the media, I gotta mask the bias a little bit, but I'm not that far removed from being a fan, and I don't remember very much not negativity, but everything I when I would think of my teams, it's based on wanting them to win and wanting them to be successful. And it sucked when they lost, but I wasn't like fire everybody. Like the fandom was based in support, and even when you were critical, it was like you need to change this because we're close, or you need this wide receiver, or that like it was all based in optimism and positivity. I don't mean that in like the soft way, but I mean that in the good fandom. But I guess if you break it down, fanatic is kind of a crazy word. Like those guys are insane. So maybe I'm only looking at. Shoot, did I just talk myself out of that?
But I mean,
I'm just gonna put
what you're
them.
saying is 100% accurate. It's like, okay, in Jared Goff's first year, I was very critical of Jared Goff because he sucked,
Yeah,
right? Not because I was reveling in the suctitude. No, no, no. If you suck, I want you to be better
yes.
because
And
I
when he
want
was
my team
better,
to
when he
win.
played better, what'd you do?
When he played better, I was like, I'm a golf guy. No
Let's
problem.
go. You give him your flowers, and you're riding the train now.
Yeah, but
Almost like
you've
receipt
you've
holding.
got
You
some
can't
people.
change your mind. Like,
Yeah, it's like the SOL fans. It's like, but why? Don't you want the team to be good?
right,
Isn't that
right,
just the isn't that the object? Isn't that the goal, the target?
right.
So, I
I
don't
think
know.
some people are just naturally pessimistic. And I don't mean that in like a shot type of way. Although there are
Mm,
people that are just like ridiculous. My 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 dad when I hope you're not watching, Dad. Shout out to you. When I was growing up, we'd watch Tigers games. Todd
Mm,
Jones was the closer,
mm,
late 90s, early 2000s. And when you look at it, he had a pretty successful career, but every time he would come into the game, and he had some bad seasons. My dad, they're bringing in this bum again. Like he's going to blow the save again. Like he just starts off with, oh, this bum. And he doesn't mean it in like a negative way, but it's just like, bro, give him a chance. Like I didn't realize it as a kid. I realize it more now, like being in this business and being an adult. It's
mm.
like, bro, give him a chance. Like, okay, if he walks the first batter, I get it. But I never was like that.
Well, I mean, we had a player like that. His name was Will Harris.
Yeah, that was polarizing. Unfortunately, shout out to Will Harris, great human being.
Yeah,
He played so bad on the field. Like there wasn't much. There wasn't any good you could really pull out.
exactly, exactly.
Like at the
But
end of the day, when people are paying money for tickets, you got to perform.
exactly, exactly. And I'm glad he's not back on the line. Hopefully, he finds a job somewhere. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
but just
Or he's on the Lions and he's your sixth or seventh guy, or he's your practice team player. Like he's the guy they love in that locker room, and
yeah,
he can play multiple positions. He just didn't do it as a high level as a starter or on the field. So I'm fine with him being in the locker room, just not in Ford Field on Sundays.
yeah, just don't suit up.
Yeah. Seriously though, it seems so shitty to say. Excuse my language. I hope that is okay. But it's true. Like we also do have to be realists. Like if you struggle, if you continuously have poor performances, you are getting paid a lot of money. You are going to get critiqued. It is what it
It's
is.
professional sports. You know,
Yeah.
if
All
you're
of
a
us dream
professional,
of being in your spot.
exactly. You know, all of us do. And then when you piss your opportunity away, it's just frustrating. You know, especially when you're
It
pissing
is.
it away on my team.
Right. That's when the fanatic starts coming out.
It's my team. I pay the salaries.
Yes. Yes. Chef, by the
Uh,
way, I have about 15 minutes max. I don't know if there's what more you want to get to.
we'll
I'm
get to
more than happy to revisit this conversation before the draft too, if you had
yeah,
more
yeah.
planned and we just weren't able to get to it. But you do your thing. I know I was rambling a little bit, so
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
wherever you want to finish up here.
It's all good. I mean, we can put a pin in it and just kind of like come back to it whenever you have some time. I know next week
Yeah.
is going to be a busy week, um, but I'm in
Well,
Australia
tell
and
me,
not
like
able to
maybe
go to the draft.
maybe for 5 more minutes. Well, I'll make time for you, bro. Um,
Yeah,
we'll make something happen if you want. But maybe for 5 minutes or so, like we didn't talk about many other cornerbacks. Like, what is your strategy there, or are there some names? And I'll go and do some more research maybe for our
yeah.
next conversation. Like, who and when about in the draft are you thinking to address that cornerback spot?
I mean, it would depend on what we had to use to trade up to get Dallas Turner.
Fair, yeah. So like, it's true. It all changes. Not just even what the Lions do, what other teams do before that. Totally right. But like,
Dude, I
are you
told
thinking,
somebody,
that
I was gonna say, I told someone on Twitter, I think it was yesterday. I said if we trade up and draft Dallas Turner, I could just turn the draft off and go to sleep. But I
yeah,
just don't care.
yeah. Someone said that to me. Um, was it Eduardo? Are you on the same page as Eduardo of going up and getting an edge?
Yeah,
It might not have been him.
I'm going up to
Okay,
get
maybe it
an
was him.
edge. Yeah.
Specifically, I think Eduardo Juan said too.
Yeah, that's the only position I'm going up to get is an edge. Everybody else.
So now Edge is out of the picture. Let's hypothetically say you had to give up 61 for that. You might not have to. You probably get, but so we're talking like third round. Maybe you trade up for a late second, but third, fourth, fifth round. Is there any? Do you have any cornerbacks in mind that require a little bit of development, or really, if you want to give a second round or two, anybody on your mind like after that first round pick of an edge?
The only one that I've really heard anything about in like the third round is Max Melton. Um, and I
The
haven't really
Rutgers.
done too much work on any cornerbacks that are outside of the top ones. Um,
I'll give you two
now,
names.
if we look at Kamari Lassiter,
It's a
there's
good
a
one.
lot of people that like Kamari Lassiter. And my problem,
You're not one of them.
my problem is he ran a 4.6. And everyone killed Bob Quinn for being the smartest guy in the room, talking about how much film he watched on T's table, who was a cornerback who ran a 4.6. So
Where are you going with that?
and that was the only thing. That was the only thing that people were upset about, just because he ran a 4.6. He was a good football player at Florida.
Smart.
Like, we can't deny that. But the fact that
Yeah.
he ran a 4.6 was why everyone was killing uh, Bob Quinn. And obviously because
Bob Quinn. Yeah.
Bob Quinn was just an ass. But, you know, I mean, I guess it would be better if you're saying, okay, well, Brad Holmes is the one making the pick, or as I like to call them,
Mm-hmm.
Brad Campbell. If they're the ones making the pick, I guess it comes off better, right? It's the messenger.
Right.
It's not just the message.
But that is for a cornerback, and he's not like a hybrid safety cornerback. He's a cornerback, and speed. That's one of those positions where it's one of the more important parts. Like Brian Branch, you can get away with a slower 40 because of where he plays on the field and his instincts. He's not always just trying to lock down a receiver playing man-to-man coverage. If you're a cornerback and you're put in those situations, you need to be able to recover and accelerate and be fast. Brian Branch, he makes up for he's like a 4.3 on the football field when he might be a 4.5 in the combine because his instincts and pads is so much higher than everybody else or most others. Everybody else. I'll go everybody else.
Yeah. Now, if Lassiter plays faster than 4.6, then okay. But if he plays
But
at a
again, it's harder as a
4.6,
cornerback.
but I'm saying if he plays at a 4.6,
That's not good.
it's not.
Not
And then
good.
when you have a corner who's slow, you have to allocate a lot of other resources.
Yeah.
Right. So just like when people thought that Jeff Okuda locked down JJ, I was like, no, he didn't. Go back and look at the tape.
Mm-mm.
He had safety help every single play. Right. And then the next week,
Boom.
when DK Metcalf called him out and Aaron Glenn was like, hey, go do it. He didn't.
Nuh-uh.
He didn't do it.
No, that's a good call. Also, Max Mountain's
yeah.
like the opposite of that. He's a little raw in some areas, but he's an athlete and he's fast. He's quick.
Yeah.
You make up for it there.
So I would have to
go home.
Have to do some work on those guys.
Okay.
But
when you're looking up some other guys, I'm not saying these are like home run picks for the Lions, but two guys that just kind of have struck my fancy. One was one of the first I got onto, and the other is more recent. More recent is Kamal Haddon out of Tennessee, who will be a 4th or 5th round guy, maybe 6th, but middle to late of the draft. They like their Tennessee cornerbacks, even though Cam Sutton didn't really work out. But Emmanuel Mosley's here to mentor him. And then Dwight McGlothern out of Arkansas. His nickname is Nudie. But Dwight McGlothern played 2 years at LSU, 2 years at Arkansas. His first year wasn't so great, but he got like significantly better each and every year. He's a bigger guy. He can play press man corner. He's not the crazy athlete, but it's that those instincts, that veteran leadership. He plays really, really aggressive, really tough, and has had he's battle tested against some really good SEC receivers. So again, 4th, 5th, and 6th round for these guys: Dwight McGlothern and Kamal Haddon out of Tennessee.
Okay. All right. And who was the guy that you told me out of
and
Troy?
Javon Solomon.
Javon
Solomon out of Troy. That's it. Yeah, I think you'll really like him.
I will.
If you like Houston, you'll like him.
Together. I love Houston, man. I love Houston. He definitely is a problem.
We have a problem.
Exactly.
Does that bum you out that he got hurt on special teams?
Or
is it like that's a side effect of being on a Dan Campbell team? Like, you got to earn it. It was unfortunate. What are you going to do?
I mean, would it make it better if he got hurt sacking a quarterback? I mean,
when you put it that way, which is as clear as it is, no.
Yeah.
I guess I think until you asked me that, I would have said yes.
Yeah.
Why do we have him out there on special teams? But you think about, he's going to get hurt. It happened.
It's the nature of the beast. Just like we're talking about JMO returning kicks in this new situation. Now, let's say JMO takes 2 or 3 back. All right. And let's hope that this doesn't happen, right? But then...
Don't do it.
I'm not even going to say it. All right? I'm not even going to say it.
Pulls a hammy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, so you're telling me go get a wide receiver or go get Mikey Sanders early?
No, that's not what I'm telling you. What I'm saying is like,
edge rusher who can return kicks.
Right. He takes 2 or 3 back, and then hamstring injury keeps him out 3-4 weeks. Are you then upset because he was returning kicks and he injured his hamstring?
That's a great point. I'd say no. Yeah, it's a fantastic point. I wouldn't be upset if that's what you were getting from him before. I'd be upset they got injured, but not that it happened on special teams.
And he has the potential.
Got that DNA, that sales DNA.
There you go. Even if he doesn't take 2 or 3 back, he has the potential to take it to the house every time he touches the ball, right? And we always want...
That's why I'm on that bandwagon.
Yeah, we always want our top playmakers with the ball in their hands. So special teams is a part of football. It helps you win or lose games. So if you have him out there on special teams, it's because he's a playmaker and you're trying to get the ball in his hands. That's
everything I was calling for. I don't think I was alone. Just get the ball in his hands last year. And they did more as the season went on. Why not guarantee it with a kickoff? And if they don't kick it to him, you get to start at like the 40. Sell me any less.
I'll take it and then if you get Jake Bates Motel and you start,
I knew you were going there.
You're already in field goal range.
Like 10 yards. Give me 10 yards to kick a field goal or less.
Just get us the first down.
How did I sense you were going there? I knew it.
Hey, man. Great minds think alike.
Yes. Chef, this was a blast.
Yeah. We got to do this again.
Oh, for sure.
All right, guys.
I love how you broke down these edge rushers, but I appreciate you having me on, man. This was great.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me for a couple hours.
Of course.
So tomorrow.
Let's do it. Hey, it's just the beginning, my man.
tomorrow, hopefully, we have easy, and
Easy.
I'm working on something. He's a former NFL player. Uh,
Ooh,
we'll have to see. Uh, I
teasing. You're
know
teasing.
I know his brother quite well. I met him before. His brother told me to hit him up. So yeah, we'll see
Hmm.
if he wants to come on and talk about some DBs.
Sweet,
So it'll
sweet.
be either
That'll be a blast.
before,
I'll be tuning in tomorrow.
during, or after the draft.
Cool, cool. I'm in. The kitchen smells good. This was fun cooking with you. Fun being your sous chef for the night. Maybe I'll get a sous chef hat next time.
Definitely, definitely get one.
You're the
I'm
man,
thinking
chef.
of probably for the season changing up, just going Honolulu blue or royal blue, whatever I can get close to. You know,
Wait,
put a
jersey reveal
logo on the
comes out,
hat.
then maybe it'll adjust.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see what those look like tomorrow. All right,
Yes,
Broder,
yes.
I'm gonna let you go. And that is all the time we have for today. If you didn't smash the like button on the way in, smash it on the way out. If you didn't subscribe on the way in, subscribe on the way out. And if you didn't share on the way in, share on the way out. If you did any of those things, I appreciate you. And I invite you to keep coming back. And as always,